This is pre-calc lesson P5, solving equations graphically, numerically, and algebraically. So, solve the equation 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 equals 0 graphically. So, anytime you're going to graph anything this year, I would use Desmos. It's really slick and easy to use. So, what was it? 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. And then, hit home to kind of get back to where we can see the view window there, and we can see negative 0.5 and positive 2. So our solutions are going to be negative 1/2 and positive 2. So graphically is one way to do that. If you have a number in front of the x squared there, you're going to want to probably do it graphically or quadratic formula, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. All right, the zero factor property, if a times b is 0, then a is 0 or b is 0. So if something multiplies to be 0, then one of the numbers has to be 0. So factoring. Well, factoring is a review. So remember, when we factor, we want to multiply to be that number and add to be that number. So x times x, factors of 6, 3 and 2. And then we want negative 3 plus 2 would be negative 1. That's factored form, so x is 3 and negative 2. So those would be the answers to the problem, 3 and negative 2. Let's try that again. Factoring. So we want to multiply to negative 40, but add to negative 3. So 8 and 5 are going to be your numbers. We're going to be minus 8 plus 5 because we want those to add up to negative 3. Then our solutions are going to be 8 and negative 5. Okay? All right, to solve by extracting square roots, once again, we're dealing with squared, so you're going to have two answers on these. So this is isolated, so you take the square root of both sides. So we have 2x minus 1 equals 3, and 2x minus 1 equals negative 3. Then I add 1, divide by 2, so one answer is positive 2. Then I add 1, divide by 2, and another answer is negative 1. So 2 and negative 1 would be your answers there. All right, let's try that again. This one is not isolated, so I got to divide by 3. When I do that, I get 5. Then I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I have x plus 4 equals. Well, 5 is not a perfect square. So we can leave them when they're not perfect in that form. So it would be plus and minus the square root of 5. Then I'm going to put negative 4 over here. So minus 4 plus and minus the square root of 5 would be your two answers if you're extracting square roots. All right. All right, there's the day 1 assignment. Let's go to day 2, completing the square. All right, to solve by completing the square, what you want to do is you want to take half of your b term, square it. That goes here and here, what I like to call the magic box. You do that on both sides, then you get it to a squared binomial and solve. I know I talked through that kind of fast. It's just easier for Mr. Walmuth to do an example, so here we go. To complete the square, so the first thing we need to do is we need to move this minus 8 over, or move this 8 over here. So we got to subtract it. So now we got x squared minus 6x plus the magic box equals, then you got negative 8 over here plus the magic box. If you put the magic box on one side, you always got to put it on the other. Okay? The number that goes in the magic box, you take half the b term, which would be negative 6. So half of it's negative 3. You square it, you get 9. You get 9. You always put the same thing. So half the b term squared should always be a positive number. Okay? Then you want to rewrite this side as a binomial squared. Well, that's easy. You just take x and then half the b term. So x minus 3 squared equals negative 8 plus 9 is 1. Then you extract the square roots. Take the square root of both sides. So we have x minus 3 equals 1. And x minus 3 equals negative 1 when you take the square root. Add 3 to get 4. Add 3 to get 2. So our two answers are 4 and 2. 4 and 2. Okay, so that's completing the square method. And then last but not least is the quadratic formula. When you're in ax squared plus bx plus c, you're going to do negative b plus and minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Always encourage you to follow along in the online book in the section. It's got all these formulas right there for you. All right, so let's try one by quadratic formula. So a equals 2, b equals 3, c equals negative 5. So the opposite of b would be negative 3, plus and minus the square root of. Now, when you plug these things in, you're going to ask for trouble if you don't put them in parentheses. So underneath that, we have that, and then 2 times a is 4. The way Mr. Wilmoth likes to do it is to take that right there and find the discriminant. That's called the discriminant. So figure out what's under the square root sign. And if you do that, you get 49. So we have the square root of 49 under there. Well, the square root of 49 is perfect. That becomes 7. So now we're to negative 3 plus and minus 7 over 4. Now we can finish it off. 2 answers. Negative 3 plus 7 is 4. Divided by 4 is 1. Negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. Divided by 4 is negative 2.5. Okay? So quadratic formula. So we can solve by quadratic formula, completing the square, graphing, factoring, extracting square roots. 5 different ways to solve these quadratics. All review. You've done this before. All right, there's the day 2 assignment to finish it off, and Mr. Walmus is going to go through a handful of these with you. So let's do it. All right, number 17. We want to set this equal to 0, so I'm going to have to do a little bit of work here. So we got 2x squared minus 7x plus 9 equals. I got a FOIL here first, so x times x is x squared. Minus 3x plus x is minus 2x. Minus 3 last time last, and then don't forget this plus 3x here. Okay? So now we have 2x squared minus 7x plus 9 equals x squared minus 2x plus 3x is plus x minus 3. Now I'm going to move this one over to that side. 2x squared minus x squared is x squared. Minus 7x minus 1x is minus 8x. And 9 plus 3 is 12 equals 0. I think we can factor that. X minus, or excuse me, 6 and 2 minus 6 minus 2. So 6 and 2 would be your answers. Okay? All right, let's try 24. I'm going to take this one and move it over here. So we want to get this equal to 0. So I would subtract x squared, add 2x, subtract 6. So that gives me 0 equals x squared plus 8x minus 32. You can factor that again. X and x. What's that? No, maybe we can't factor that. You know what? Let's do Desmos. X squared plus 8x minus 32. So there are your 2 answers. Yeah, we couldn't factor it. Those come out to be decimals. 2.93 and negative 10.93. So 2.93 and negative 10.93 for 24. All right, let's try one more of those like that. Kind of going through some of these on your assignment with you. So we got to do some work here. X squared minus 3x equals 12. Got to distribute here. Minus 3x plus 6. Well, 12 plus 6 is 18. And then the negative 3x's would cancel out. So now we have x squared equals 18. So we can take the square root of 18. So we could just say x equals plus and minus the square root of 18, which is about what? 4.24 if you want to put that. Or you can leave it as a improper or a simplest radical form. Weirdo square root. All right, last one, 57. The radicand b squared minus 4ac is called the discriminant. If b squared minus 4ac is positive, what can you say about the zeros? Well, if we take the square root of a positive number, we get two answers. So you're always going to get two answers. If it is equal to 0, so if it is equal to 0, that means it's going to, what's the square root of 0? Just 0. You're going to get one solution. And if it's negative, can we take the square root of a negative number? You're going to get no solutions. All right.